All right, welcome back to Daybreak. Many thanks indeed for staying tuned. You're watching Citizen TV. Time now for the paper review. Joining me to take a look at some of the big stories in the paper this morning, Honorable Millie Odhiambo, Super North Member of Parliament. Mheshimiwa karibu.
Thank you.
And right here also we have Beatrice Elachi, the Speaker, Nairobi County. Welcome as well.
Thank you, sir.
All right, let's take a look at what Kenyans should expect this week. Monday usually sets the pace. Front page of the Daily Nation, top judge to be arrested over sleaze. That's a headline that definitely catches your eye as you look at the papers this morning. As the war on corruption gathers steam, investigators and prosecutors are poised to move into the judiciary in an effort that is likely to shock Kenya's legal and political landscape. That's a little write-up just at the bottom there. The suspect will likely face charges of abuse of office, illegally receiving money, and getting favors from officials of the collapsed Imperial Bank. And if you want the full story, you need to turn to page 4. Maybe I just mention one thing. On page 4, they then get specific and say it's actually a Supreme Court judge who's been targeted in this corruption purge. And according to sources who spoke to the Daily Nation, some of the issues revolve around transactions involving the collapsed Imperial Bank. The judge faces numerous counts of stealing, abuse of office, and unlawful failure to pay taxes. And also, the judge is accused of engaging in misconduct in furtherance of personal benefit, amongst other issues. Of course, these are all allegations. No one's been arrested yet, not that we know of, so we have to wait and see. But the judiciary has seemingly looked very far removed from what we've been seeing, very clean, so to speak. But if this is true, then it could be something else happening. So let me start with you, Honorable Odhiambo, and get your thoughts on this. Which judge, which magistrate will agree to listen to that particular case?
Well, I guess if the matter comes up, they will have no choice but to listen. But the only thing personally I would urge is that, which I've been consistent about, is that so long as we are not politicizing the war on corruption, I think I'm okay with it. So long as we are not politicizing. Have
you yourself heard of any allegations toward the judiciary? Have had any concerns?
Well, I think this is something that Kenyans have talked about throughout the years. I think even if you think really long back, there was a time that Ahmed Nasir really took a swipe at the judges. And well, even though that was really way back, and there have been talks about certain judges, not all judges, taking bribes. So that has been there. And you remember there was a time that there was also a judicial purge. And so, yeah, there have been instances and discussions around certain judges being corrupt. But again, I want to re-emphasize that so long as we are not seen to politicize, you know, the fight against corruption, if we are seen to politicize the fight against corruption, then we will have lost the war. But right now, we have a very good tempo in the fight against corruption. The public is, you know, with the president on this issue.
Honorable Elachi, if the allegations are true, what needs to be done to ensure that the individual that is being investigated does not manipulate the system in their favor? Because this is someone who understands how the system operates. They're practically in it.
Well, first I will just repeat and emphasize on the words of Millie. Let us not politicize it. And therefore, the judges should understand that it is not just in the political sphere where we have the corrupt ones. It is all over. And if we want to clean the process, let us agree that in the three arms of government should work together to ensure we achieve this. It's quite a huge agenda, but I know it is something that we need to ask ourselves whether, as you go to court, whether the courts are willing to also fight the same vice. But they should understand Kenyans will come for them. I could see the Chief Justice really pleading, I need a budgetary. Now, this is a test for the judiciary. If this won't work, and even those who are being taken to court, if you don't finalize their cases in time, so that we don't also derail the whole process, Kenyans will start feeling this is the institution that derails everything for us. And I know, not just on corruption, we have issues of land. You find people have been in court for 40 years, 20 years. Some have even passed on, and they find now their children are the ones who are dragging, especially on succession issues. And we are saying, let us have a Kenya where you appreciate. If a father has passed on, for example, and their children are now, they were rich, but now you find them very poor, they are unable to go to school. That is part of that corruption we are talking about. We are talking about corruption where you find a judge with a lawyer are in cahoots to ensure you just drag this family every time they go to court, you give in a new date. Oh, the lawyer comes in and says this. We also need to see lawyers, because let us not just think the judges. By the time
the whole legal system.
Yes, by the time the judges is receiving, it means the lawyer knew where he was taken, because the judge wouldn't just wake up and say this. It is the lawyer who will go and convince the judge that we are able to give you this. So it is a system that we must clean all of it.
Honorable Odhiambo, let's take a look at the state of the judiciary. On one hand, you have Maraga saying, listen, even in terms of funding, we're struggling. On the other hand, we then have allegations like this one. As you look at the future of the judiciary, what do you think the conversation needs to be? What sort of reforms need to happen? What would be your perspective?
Well, my perspective, of course, is that we must maintain the independence of the judiciary. And we must maintain the independence because really Kenyans largely have a fair amount of faith in our judiciary. And if, for instance, that's why I'm saying actually that if there's a case against a judge, there must be watertight evidence so that we do not lose. And again, I want to say so that we don't lose the fight based on perceptions of politicizing, you know, corruption. Kenyans are tired of corruption, as again I've said so, but they want us to, they want the country to be seen, to be on the right path in fighting corruption. Now, if, for instance, you say there's one judge that is corrupt, that doesn't make the entire judiciary corrupt. But again, if we were able to take that decisive action at that high level, then it will be sending a right message, again, re-emphasizing that if we are not politicizing and going, especially because I don't want to speculate which judge it is, but going by our recent case, assuming it is one of the judges that were called the Wakora networks, then people will likely see it to be politicizing. That's
actually, it's actually come up in the story, and if I can just read that quote there. One of the paragraphs said that, just to add on to what you're saying, Honorable Odhiambo, added to that is the specter of President Uhuru Kenyatta's threat to revisit the judiciary after the Supreme Court voided his election.
Exactly. So that's why I'm saying if we want to go to that direction, we must have airtight evidence. Otherwise, we'll lose this, you know, goodwill that we have with Kenyans. Because this is the first time you're having, you know, not the first time really, but
first time maybe in a long time.
In a long time that we are having this goodwill again, that where Kenyans are very happy that and supportive of the fight against corruption. So if it would be remotely to be seen to be a revisit to the judiciary, again following closely after the judiciary and Justice Maraga complaining about the cut in their in their budget that they were seeing sort of as a revisit of the punishment to the judiciary, then I think the timing for me would be very yes, let's fight, but I'm not too sure whether...
Aside, let's fight corruption.
Let's fight corruption.
Okay.
If only if we are sure that we have airtight evidence, that is one, but also that we are not really targeting one person when we know maybe there are several others, and sort of zeroing in on one. When, you know, if you talk to lawyers, they'll be able to tell you. When I was in practice, now I'm not in very active practice because of my kind of life, but when I was in active practice, if you told lawyers, they tell you who is corrupt. It is known, it is, it is discussed in the corridors, everybody knows who is, who accepts money under the table, so everybody knows who is compromisable. So with those kind of things, it is very easy to net the corrupt. That's why I'm saying, let us not just focus, because if we focus on this, you know, we must also be tactful in the way we are dealing with corruption. I think that's, for me, it's a concern, and that we need to be tactful.
One of the reasons why they say that this matter has been handled as a top security matter. In fact, for the nation, they say they've really had to do a lot to be able to get that level. Any of these details.
That may be true, but I really think we must be tactful in the way we are dealing with this, because then we may lose that war on corruption.
Speaking of losing that war, let me come back to you, Honorable Elachi. If this is not handled properly, Could there be a scenario in the future where judges are afraid to make certain judgments because they fear that this could befall them, especially, again, if she says if it's not transparent, if the evidence is not airtight or watertight, this could affect how the judiciary thinks moving forward. What are the potential dangers of bungling this up?
But you see, one of the things I always say, Kenyans, we are very interesting. Are we fearing because now we've gone to the judiciary? Yeah, because if we really want to fight this, then we have to say we are Kenyans, and as individuals we have a weakness. As individuals, we have a weakness. We are all Kenyans, same character. It doesn't matter whether I'm in judiciary. We have same characteristics that go around us. So we can't run away. 80% or 90%, 95% might be very good. We might have a few who are with the same character of Kenyans, where they have a weakness in, if I come to you and plead, I'm your friend, you will listen to me. You might not take the bribe, but you'll do what I want you to do. You know, sometimes we think is that they just take the money. Sometimes they won't take the money, but they will do what you, as a friend, wanted. In other words, others will feel, how did he win that case? The next thing Kenyans will be thinking is, he took money, even if you didn't take. But so for me, if we are going to look at judiciary as so special, as an institution, it is special as an institution. But the individuals who are in must ensure that speciality is protected so that you don't find yourself, the person who needs to...
Should that lifestyle audit almost go their way?
It will go their way because...
Lifestyle audit should go everybody's way.
Everybody has to count it up to even clerks, up to even us.
Yes.
But
I
the
think
thing is...
we are probably mainly agreed on a lot of things.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So the DPP has to ensure when you are bringing now such a case, bring a case that is a file when anyone opens like this, nobody will question. Nobody will feel. I can see it's the Imperial Bank issue. And whoever they are saying had also accepted a personal loan of 12 million. Now, I don't know the rest. It means that is what we are saying. Try to ensure the case is not taken into personal context, where we are saying because I had a personal loan with Imperial, now I must help Imperial. No. So let's leave it to the DPP. Let's see what the case is and how it comes out. And because now it has gone into the papers, I think he can try and just do it quietly again to give it time so that all these questions now people are raising are looked upon properly.
In fact, it's interesting you've said that. So in a sense, it's important he listens to all the questions that will come out of this.
Come out of this.
And has answers for them before he goes out.
I think you can never go wrong on principle. And I am consistent on some issues. One, do not politicize the fight against corruption. Of course, we must go for the corrupt. But in going for the corrupt, one, we must not politicize it. Secondly, everybody is innocent until proven guilty. Thirdly, all arrested persons have rights that are entrenched in the Constitution. I am saying this because there's a very wrong trend that is going on in Kenya, that every time a person is arrested, we already deem them, guilty. I think that's not right. The fact that I am arrested just means that somebody has alleged something against me. And then there's a very wrong trend that I'm seeing that is emanating from the judiciary, where they're being punitive. We are no longer granting bail. Yet constitutionally, we now allow bail even for cases of murder. So why are we putting people in? Like I saw the cases of in Homa Bay, for instance. I know sometimes we pander to the public opinion that the public would want people who are arrested to be put in for long. I say my views, whether it's popular with the public or not, because I stick by principle. And here, I'm going against what I know is the public grain. The public, I would be very thrilled to see that people who are arrested stay in. And it is not right. At all costs. It is not correct. At the cost of their rights. It is not right. Anybody who is arrested is presumed innocent. And once they are in court, once they are before court, they should be granted bail. What you need to do then is, like in the cases of Homa Bay, where they presume that this is a case of corruption, I am told their assets were frozen, known assets. I think that is really enough of measures instead of taking away rights. And then one of the cases I'm actually told, though I have not proven, but I'm told that one of the women was being treated like she's already
guilty.
She's already actually sentenced. She's already a convict. I don't think that is right. Even as we are fighting corruption, we cannot move away from certain human rights standards that are entrenched in the Constitution.
Is there pressure on those who are fighting corruption to be seen to be doing sort of above and beyond the call of duty? So that Kenyans applaud them?
I think, yes, and we shouldn't pander to that.
Off?
The problem is, there are two things. Now, when you are in the rural, it's also even more unfortunate because you go back home, now people look at you differently. They start thinking the things you have, kumbe ni mali yetu. So there are two ways of looking at it. You have to be very careful also. Kenyans, the only problem we have with everyone who is in this challenge sometimes is the arrogance and the pride. Now, when you've been given bail, again, you come back bragging. Now, that is why Kenyans feel what Mheshimiwa is saying. Because of that, just they forget. And you start bragging, and then people start going back to say, you brought us people back here, they are bragging, they are pride, they are arrogant. And I've always told myself, the best way to manage Kenyans is just have your humility. You will survive in many of these things. Because Kenyans hate, especially as civil servants or any person drawing public resources to be paid for, coming and showing as if they are nobodies. And they wonder, and that culture has really inculcated in them that they feel, after all, it is me who is paying you, Mheshimiwa Mili, Mheshimiwa Elachi. So why do you come and brag? So, and that is why we always tell Waheshimiwas, do not brag. It does not help you. You make Kenyans more angry and more, they have this anger that they can do mob justice in 1 minute. So you'd even prefer to be in than out.
I think it comes back to the issue of confidence in the judiciary.
Yeah.
There's a level of confidence, but still it's not strong enough. And the reason I'm saying that is because you notice that instances where people who brag like that, like I saw one of the persons who were arrested in Homa Bay, one of the supporters actually had the audacity to go and write on Facebook and say, one of the ones who had gone missing for a long time. And he said, it's okay, even if he goes missing, he will just appear before the court and
be granted bail,
and we are out, so what? Those kind of things is what is making the public feel that once people are arrested, they should go in. And then also people always see that also cases take too long. So the issue of corruption is actually a very strong test case on further confidence or lack of confidence in the judiciary. If the judiciary is able to dispose of these cases as fast as we are able to deal with the cases which are more difficult, like the electoral petition cases, then the confidence
a lot more complex than
which are a lot more complex than these ones of the judiciary. Then the confidence will be, retained. But that's why I would urge the judiciary that whenever you have these cases of corruption, let us not delay, because the public is fixated on what is actually going on. They want to see, and in some of those cases of corruption or alleged corruption, I have seen one which is not yet in court. But and I'm speaking as a lawyer, it's blatant. I'm sure when you go in as a defense lawyer, you may bring in XYZ.
New evidence.
No, XYZ to counter blah, blah, blah. But on the face of it, some of those, cases are so glaring. The cases of corruption are so glaring.
Yeah, you don't need even to wait.
So then really, why would you wait for 3 years?
It's interesting you've said that on Nation page 5, and this is not a court matter alone.
But the other thing before we go there for Homa Bay, I saw in Homa Bay, they walk in with 7 lawyers. If I was the judge, I will
representing one individual.
I will put you in. I will know you're coming to intimidate me here. 7 lawyers. You have a lot of money to spend.
It is their right.
Money that is not.
It is their right, though, to hire 7 lawyers.
But no.
But it doesn't make sense.
That is where the public gets that anger, because they are wondering. We just saw so and so the other day. 3 years ago, you are so. Even when we are doing the cases of the presidential, most of them are pro bono, yes, but if you find that the real lawyers are maybe 3 or even 2, And those are very serious cases. There are reasons why you walk in with 2 or 3. But if you walk in with 7, it means you even don't understand your case. Because what case is this? Even murder you can't. So you just need to be serious and don't make it a fashion show thing. That anger is what comes out now, where people feel, oh, even you can use our money. And by the way...
You can use our money to hire as many lawyers as you need.
I saw the one for Kajiado on WhatsApp, the clerk who was removed of Kajiado. And he said they have money from SOCAT. SOCAT is an association made by clerks. I mean, it was very interesting how they did it. And they are able to withdraw 500,000 from every county assembly to start an association. And I asked them how. If the Senate has been unable to get money for their own oversight, how do you just come as public officers, civil servants, you draw money from public coffers? We have no framework. Even the Auditor General doesn't know. How do you audit such account? How? And how do you prove what the reasons of withdrawing? You can imagine 500,000 from 47 counties. From every county. How much was that?
An audit as well. I think
and what is it for?
And what is it for?
Essentially, because that's public money.
Abuse of office.
Let's take a break on that note. As you talked about delay, it takes me to page 5 of the Daily Nation, which I want to tease before we take a break. The governor of Kirinyaga County, Anne Waiguru, says release report on Kavura affidavit in 7 days. She says that the 2016 affidavit that is said to have linked her then as the devolution CS to the alleged loss of 791 million shillings at the NYS. She's still waiting to see that, for it to be made public, and she's given the EACC 7 days to make that public. We'll be talking a bit about that. And of course, the fight on corruption. Obviously, there are a lot of issues that both of you have raised that show that this matter is a lot more complex than it seems on the surface. And we'll be taking a look at that when we return. We take a short break. You're watching Daybreak. Stay with us. The program continues shortly. So, what is the meaning